Beginner's Guide to Identify Honeybees in India. What are honeybees? Honeybees are hymenopteran insects that produce and store honey. However, in addition to honeybees, some other insects also produce honey. Out of these, the stingless bees are the notable ones. Both honeybees and stingless bees belong to the family Apidae of the insect order Hymenoptera. While there are only 9 species of honeybees, more than 605 species of stingless bees are known across the world. Honeybees exclusively belong to the genus Apis. The bees of the genus are large honeybees, medium-sized honeybees, and dwarf honeybees. How to identify honeybees? First, check whether Hymenoptera or not. 2 pairs of membranous wings. The front margin of the hind wings possess small hooks called hemuli. Females have stinger. These stingers are modified ovipositors. The males don't have ovipositors, so don't possess stingers. Constriction between the first 2 segments of the abdomen. If these characters are present, the insect will be a Hymenoptera. The antennae are geniculate, which means elbow-shaped. It is bent at scapedicel joint. Second, check whether Apidae or not. The females have corbicula or pollen basket on the outer side of the tibia of the hind leg. In Apidae, forewings have 3 submarginal cells. Pollen-carrying structures, when present, are on the third tibia, either forming a corbicula. Third, how to identify Apis. The honeybees have 3 submarginal cells in the forewing. Here the cell means the area of wings surrounded by wing veins. The middle submarginal cell of insects of the genus Apis is like the beak of a bird. The singers of worker females of honeybees have inverted barbed stings. So, when the worker honeybees sting their enemies, they die while trying to pull it out, as it also carries out the visceral organs like the alimentary canal. But the queen honeybee has a barbless stinger like other Hymenoptera insects. So, the queen can sting repeatedly. How to identify different species of honeybees? Before identifying different species of honeybees, we should know the wing venation. In the forewings of honeybees, like other insects, the first wing vein is the costa. However, the second and third veins, the subcostal and radius, merge to form subcosta plus radius. The radial vein branches later on and forms the radius 1 and radial sector. At some portion, the radial sector also merges with the vein media to form the radial sector plus media. Likewise, the fourth and the fifth wing veins, the media and cubitus, also merge to form media plus cubitus, which later run separately. A dark spot, like many other insects, is seen at the margin of the forewing. It is called pterostigma. The front margin of the hind wings has hemuli like other hymenopteran insects. The hind wing may or may not bear the spur-like distal extension of the vein media. The mouthparts are chewing and lapping type. In bees, like the adults of most Hymenoptera, organization of labrum and mandibles constitute chewing type, but the bees are nectar feeders and are described as lapping the nectar. This is achieved by elongation and flattening of the galea and labial palps, which surround the fused glossae. The space outside the glossal tongue forms the food canal. The salivary canal is in the posterior folds of the tongue. In Apis and other Hymenoptera, the forelegs are of grooming type, modified for cleaning antennae. There is a basal notch in the basitarsus lined with spine-like hairs forming a comb. A flattened spur extends down from the tip of the tibia in such a way that when the metatarsus is flexed against the tibia, the spur closes off the notch to form a complete ring. This ring is used to clean the antenna. First, it is closed around the base of the flagellum, and then the antenna is drawn through it so that the comb cleans the outer surface and the spines on the spur scrape the inner surface. The hind legs, like other Apidae bees, are modified for collecting pollens and are known as corbiculate legs. In the honey bee, Apis, pollen collected on the head region is brushed off with the forelegs and moistened with regurgitated nectar before being passed back to the hind legs, which also collect pollen from the abdomen using the comb on the basitarsus. The pollen on the combs of one side is then removed by the rake of the opposite hind leg and collected in the pollen press between the tibia and basitarsus. By closure of the press, pollen is forced outwards and upwards onto the outside of the tibia and is held in place by the hairs of the pollen basket. On returning to the nest, the pollen is kicked off into a cell by the middle legs. Members of a honeybee colony. The honeybees are eusocial insects. Eusocial insects have overlapping generations and division of labor among the individuals of the colony. A honeybee colony has one reproductive female called queen, the mother of the colony, reproductively underdeveloped females called workers, and the males called drones. The drones don't do any work except mating. The queen mates only once after emergence and performs a nuptial flight to male aggregated areas, where she mates with only about 15 to 20 strongest and most competitive males. It helps the queen to maintain vigor and genetic diversity. Drones become sexually mature about a week after emerging and die instantly upon mating. Drones normally rely on workers for food. Since drones eat 3 times as much food as workers, an excessive number of drones may place added stress on the colony's food supply. When cold weather begins and pollen nectar resources become scarce, drones usually are forced out into the cold and left to starve. Queenless colony, however, allows them to stay in the hive indefinitely. The workers have again age-based division of labor called temporal polytheism. The younger workers are called nurse bees. They clean the nest, feed the larvae, secrete royal jelly from the hypopharyngeal and mandibular glands, and secrete beeswax from the ventral abdominal wax glands located from segment 4 to 7. With age, the nurse bees become foragers that collect nectar, pollen, plant resins, minerals, etc. Honey bees don't drink water, but collect water cooling and diluting honey. The oldest workers become the defenders that defend the colony. The larvae destined for queens are fed only with royal jelly, while other larvae are fed only for the first 3 days with royal jelly. And during the rest of the period, they are fed with honey and be bred. The queen has a longer body. The wings cover only 2/3 of the abdomen. She moves around the colony and spreads pheromone. The drones have large compound eyes that meet with each other. In India, giant honeybee Apis dorsata, the head, thorax, legs, and apical 3 segments of the abdomen are black, more or less pale and fuscous on the hind part of the thorax. The basal 3 segments of the abdomen are honey yellow. They build single-combed exposed nests usually at higher branches of tall trees, tall man-made structures such as water towers, buildings, and under concrete bridges. Himalayan cliff bee Apis laboriosa, the first abdominal segment is covered with brownish hairs. Rest of the segments are purely black with white stripes at each segment. The abdominal tip of Apis laboriosa is somewhat rounded. They usually build a single-combed exposed nest on rock cliffs, but may also build nests at ledges and buildings.
Both Apis dorsata and Apis laboriosa are very gregarious species, and 20 to 30 nests in a single nesting site are fairly common. Apis laboriosa is the largest species of Apis and is distributed along the Himalayas and adjacent mountain ranges extending from Nepal to Vietnam. They are single-combed open nesters. They build exposed nests under rock ledges in deep, vertical river valleys, most commonly at 1,200 to 3,500 meter. Those nests at lower altitudes could be occupied throughout the year, but nest sites at higher altitudes are occupied only during summer. With dropping temperatures during winter, the colonies migrate to the forest near the ground, where they spend the winter as combless clusters. Those that nest below 200 meter are reported not to migrate. Indian honeybee Apis cerana abdomen with yellow and black stripes differ from the similar Apis mellifera in that in the forewing, the region marginal portion of the marginal cell and the region between costa and subcosta plus radius dark. Hindwings have an extension of vein media. The nesting pattern of the medium-sized honeybee, multiple combed cavity nester, but sometimes may build nests in open areas. European honeybee Apis mellifera, not native to Asia, but reared commercially due to large honey yield. Similar to Apis cerana, but slightly larger and light in color. The marginal cell and the region between costa and subcosta plus radius are not dark. The region between costa and subcosta plus radius is clearly visible. Apis florea, black, the basal 2 abdominal segments more or less red. The pubescence on the head and thorax is white. In fine specimens, there are narrow transverse bands of silky white pile at the base of the second to fifth abdominal segment. Apis florea usually builds a single comb nest in shrubs, bushes, and small trees, but double comb nests have occasionally been reported for Apis florea. The comb is almost always parallel with the main branch to which it is attached. The brood area is situated below the branch, while honey is stored in cells around and above the branch. Dwarf honeybee Apis andreniformes, the abdominal tergites of Apis andreniformis, are uniformly black. This classification of Apis florea and Apis andreniformis based on workers, however, is not so reliable as pigmentation varies with colonies. The most reliable characteristics to rapidly distinguish Apis florea and Apis andreniformis are as follows. In drones, the thumb of the bifurcated basitarsus of the hind leg in Apis florea is much longer than that of Apis andreniformis. The structure of the endophallus, the cubital index in worker bees, which is about 3 in Apis florea, is significantly less than that in Apis andreniformis, which is at about 6. The jugal-vanal ratio of the hind wing, which is about 75 in Apis florea, is greater than that of Apis andreniformis, which is about 65. The nesting pattern of Apis andreniformis is similar to Apis florea.